Beth, you may be seated. Shabbat Shalom again, everyone. On the other side of the Jordan River, we have no control. And it's true, we do all have a Jordan River. As we were wrapping up this spring semester, as I was wrapping up my first school year as the rabbi of North Carolina Hillel, I met a group of graduating seniors for the first time. We talked for a bit about their experience at Hillel and where they were headed next. "Oh," they exclaimed, "maybe you can help us figure out how to connect with the Jewish community in New York City." The irony in my mind was palpable as this New Yorker who found a home in North Carolina would teach these North Carolinians how to make a home in New York. I gave them some ideas and explained to them that were literally hundreds of communities for them to choose from. Shared my best advice for finding a home in a place foreign to them, and my best advice to them is there is a difference between the relationship between time and distance here and there is in New York City. For example, to drive a mile here, you need 5 minutes. To drive a mile in New York City, you need half an hour. And then we said goodbye. I didn't follow up as I do with undergraduate students. We haven't stayed in touch. I had to, at that moment, believe that we had set them up with enough at Hillel over the past 4 years for them to take my advice to heart, to feel empowered to wade through the waters of Jewish communal life on their own, scary as that may seem. I needed to accept that I had done all I could and watch from a hilltop beyond the waters as they crossed their Jordan River. We all have a Jordan River. In this week's Parsha, Akev, we continue to hear Moshe's last words to the Israelite, the community he had devoted his life to, led through darkness towards a fulfilled destiny. By this point, Moshe knows he will not be accompanying the Israelites into the promised land. Painful, yes, though when one door closes, another opens. And in this arises an opportunity not for his leadership to fizzle out slowly in the promised land, but to leave them with one final plea, a desperate and punchy attempt to do all he can to make sure they don't mess up a good thing. As you may recall, the last time he left them alone for too long, they were very quick to anxiety and turned their back on God. This is serious stuff. Will the people of Israel take him seriously? Our Parsha begins. V'haya ekev tishma'un et mishpatim. Ha'ela ushmartem va'asitem otam. Ushmor Adonai Elohecha lecha et habrit asher chesed ve'et hachesed asher nishba la'avotecha. And if you obey the rules and observe them carefully, the eternal your God will maintain faithfully for you the covenant made on oath with your fathers. A warning to the people to take this seriously and to not mess up when he's not around, like they did last time. And later, Uzcharta et kol haderech. Remember the long way that the eternal your God has made you travel in the wilderness these past 40 years in order to test you by hardships, to learn what was in your heart, whether you would keep the commandments or not. A reminder that this whole journey was to test you and make sure that you were going to stick it out and follow God's direction to salvation. He goes on to tell them that what waits for them on the other side, if they stick closely to the lessons at hand, are permanent roofs over their heads, prosperity, plenty of food to sustain them, and more. So important and so necessary are Moshe's words in Akev that we recite them twice a day in the Shema. That's sort of the middle paragraph. 3 paragraphs, the middle one's from Akev. I think what gives these words so much gravity is because he knows, the Israelites know, and now we know, that this is their last conversation. It is the gut-wrenching last speech of a man not destined to continue holding his community's hand. A final plea from God's conduit to the Israelites before he sends them on their way conduitless. Have you ever spoken to someone for the last time and in that moment knew it would be the last time you talked? All you want to say, the advice you want to give, the love you want to share with a finite end. As I imagine this scenario, I feel my stomach turning. We have a tendency to read the human emotions out of our Torah characters, and I want to advocate for us to read them back in. Feel what Moshe might have felt. The words of the Torah are meant to make us feel as if we are in it with the personalities. We need to read it with emotion to understand its full gravity. And by the way, it's not all harsh instruction for the Israelites at this moment. He also reminds them, Osem mishpat yatom ve'almana, ve'ohev ger latet lo lachem v'simla, ve'ahavtam et hager, ki gerim hayitem be'eretz Mitzrayim. But uphold the cause of the fatherless and the widow, and befriend the stranger, providing food and clothing. You too must befriend the stranger, for you are strangers in the land of Egypt. This moment does not only call for fervorous clinging to God's command, but also a softening of the heart. It is not acceptable in Moshe's mind to only follow the letter of the law, but even more so to bring it to life, to care for those in need, to make room in your heart for the stranger, because the Israelites know what it means to be a stranger. As the 19th century scholar Rabbi Samson Raphael Hirsch elaborates, it is incumbent on each Jew to emulate God, and we must place the highest value simply on what each person is worth as a person equally. We've all felt like strangers before, and frankly, it feels awful. Let's center not just on obedience, but compassion. Moshe implores that the words of Torah may come to life and that God's will can truly be fulfilled here on earth. Needless to say, my job is not nearly as high stakes as Moshe's. And my New York City conversation with a group of graduates does not hold the same gravity as Moshe's final plea to the Israelites. But I think there is a kernel of shared truth among them. There comes a point in the work of altruistic expression where we acknowledge, by choice or by force, that we have given all we can. I like to think that my congregation every year has a 25% turnover rate, which would be terrible for a synagogue, but for a Hillel is what we expect. That doesn't include grad students. I see myself as a bridge for students between childhood and adulthood, that as the first rabbi who knows them just as an adult, I may be able to set them up for success once they leave college in 4 years. I can't gauge in that time if this work will be successful, if they will lead the Jewish lives I hope they will lead. All I can do is my best to inspire them to take up the responsibility of living a meaningful Jewish life and to pass it along to others. Of course, alums stay in touch. They reach out for wedding officiating, life cycle support, and general advice. But on the day-to-day basis, we are not holding their hands through life anymore. They can't walk into our Hillel building, and they can't participate in our activities. I think I'm too early in my career, having finished just my first year as a rabbi, to measure the impact I've had or will have. But my hope is that our former students will be able to cite their time at North Carolina Hillel as transformational, as the first time they were put into the driver's seat of their own Jewish destiny, and the moment when they were inspired to be responsible and thoughtful Jewish people in the world. Even more so, Moshe is realizing that his life's work is to make a smooth transition for the Israelites from bondage to salvation, and that if done properly, the best of what he has to offer should not be the best times of their lives. I'll say that in another way. It takes some humility to acknowledge that as a conduit for change and growth, what we actually hope for those we are helping to change and grow is to have a better time after we are helping them than when we are holding their hand. It holds true for Moshe, teachers out there, service workers who help our communities run smoothly behind the scenes, for us Hillel professionals and rabbis, and for parents. As I and Adina prepare to welcome our new child into the world in a few months, I've personally taken this more to heart. The life's work for one person is a smooth on-ramp to fulfilling existence for another. This altruism is something we all feel as we experience life unfolding around us. And it's something that Moshe is grappling with firsthand in this week's Parsha. We all have a Jordan River. And part of being human is knowing where our rivers lie, how wide they are, and the degree to which we can see to the other side from our hilltop beyond the waters. It is one of those things about being human, that we experience endings. How we approach those endings and how confident we are in the care we have instilled before those endings is the variable factor. It is entirely up to us. I want to end with some words of the singer, I'm not going to sing, Eric Einstein's Uf Gozal, which I think encapsulates so much of the unspoken emotion Moshe is feeling in this moment. The emotions that we as folks in the altruism business feel at every new season of our lives, and the feelings we have all shared when we give in all that we can to a loved one, and that they set out on life's journey without us by their side. And my wife implored me to not sing for you, so I'm just going to read the words. Hagozalim shali azvu et haken, parsuk nafaim va'afu, va'ani tzipor zkeina nisharti baken, mekaveh ma'od she'akol niyeh baseder. Tamid yadati she'avo hayom shebo tzarich lehipared. Aval עכשיו זה בא לי ככה פתאום, אז מה הפלא שאני קצת דואג? ופגוזל חתוך את השמיים, טוס לאן שבא לך, רק אל תשכח יש נשר בשמיים גור לך. My little birds left the nest, spread their wings and flew away. And I am an old bird left in the nest. I hope that they will be well. I always knew this day would come to say goodbye, but now when it is here, no wonder I'm worried. Fly away, little bird, cut through the sky, fly wherever you want to. Just don't forget there's an eagle in the sky. Be aware. Shabbat Shalom.